Today is April 8th, 2017 on the Hebrew calendar. On the English, American calendar. Yeah, talk about being distracted, right? On the Hebrew calendar, 12 b'Nisan, 57 or the 12th of Nisan, 5777. And I've entitled this message, Remain at the Entrance to the Tent. And I want us to go to Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 8, verses 31 through 36, page 117 in the Complete Jewish Bible. Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 8, verses 31 through 36. Moshe said to Aharon and his sons, "Boil the meat at the door of the tent of meeting, and eat it there with the bread that is in the basket of consecration, as I ordered when I said that Aharon and his sons are to eat it. Whatever is left over of the meat and bread you are to burn up completely. You are not to go out from the entrance to the tent of meeting for 7 days until the days of your consecration are over, since Adonai will be consecrating you for 7 days. He ordered done what has been done today in order to make atonement for you. You are to remain at the entrance to the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days, thereby obeying what Adonai ordered done, so that you may not die. For this is what I was ordered." Aharon and his sons did all the things which Adonai ordered through Moshe. Now in this very, very short passage, we have another one of these situations where we have something repeated multiple times. In this case, 3 times. And that phrase is, "You are to remain at the entrance to the tent of meeting." This was very, very important. Obviously, it was important because God, through Moshe, said, if you don't, then you will die. Now these guys, I'm sure, remember when the 2 other brothers ended up going before the Lord with the incense when they shouldn't have, and the fire of the Shekinah coming out and consuming them. And so they knew that if God said, if you don't do this, you will die, that God meant it. So, it says at the very end there that Aharon and his sons did everything that they were ordered to do. So they did what was ordered for them to do in staying by the tent, the entrance to the tent. Now, if you're using some other translation, it may read a little bit differently. This phrase, the tent of meeting. In the King James Version, it actually says tabernacle of the congregation. That is actually a very, very poor translation, because the Hebrew words that are used, I'm just going to do it in Hebrew first. It says, "Vayomer Moshe el Aharon ve'el banev bashlu et habashar petach ohel moed." Ohel moed. Okay? "And Moshe said to Aharon and his sons, boil the meat at the door of the tent of meeting," is the way that he translates this. Okay? Well, ohel does mean tent. But it also means dwelling place. Okay? And you know, when we talk about the tabernacle, that's the most common terminology that is used today, the tabernacle in the wilderness is what people talk about. We really I don't think that we necessarily picture things correctly all the time. The term Mishkan actually is a word that means the entire compound. Okay? So all the way out to the outer parameters of the outer court, the curtain that went around the outside, that whole thing is called the Mishkan. Okay? But the Ohel Moed is a component of the Mishkan. The Ohel Moed is the actual tent structure that's in the compound, okay, where if you went inside the tent, then you had the first, the foyer, so to speak, which would be the holy place. This is where you would find the menorah, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense. Okay? And then if you go through another curtain, now you're at the Holy of Holies, where the Aron Kodesh resided and where the Shekinah was. So when this says, remain at the entrance of the tent, this is specifically telling them, you are to remain in the holy place, in the area where the menorah, the altar of incense, and the table of showbread are. Okay? So we need to make sure that we have the proper picture there in our minds of where they are, where God said that they are supposed to be. Because that is actually, that detail is important. Okay? So Ohel, like I said, it can mean tent, but it means dwelling place. Moed, for those who are Hebrew speakers, you automatically realize this word. Okay? Moed does not mean assembly. It does not mean congregation. Now, meeting is getting a little bit closer to the correct meaning of the word. Okay? Specifically translated literally, Moed means appointed time. Pesach and Chag HaMatzah and Yom HaBikurim, which is the Feast of First Fruits, these are all, which we're about to go into, these are all Moedim. Okay, the im ending is plural. So, a Moed, Pesach is a Moed, Chag HaMatzah is a Moed, Yom HaBikurim is a Moed. These are all appointed times. These are times that God set aside and said, these are special to me. Okay? And you will do whatever, A, B, C, D, on these given days. Okay? So, what this literally means is the dwelling place of the appointed times. Now, another way that we have liked to explain Moed and appointed time is dates, as in going on a date. Okay? In other words, God is saying that when these times come that I have designated, I am calling you, my bride, to come on a date with me. Okay? And where are you going to go on a date with me? According to the name of this place, this tent, this dwelling place of the Shekinah. This is the place where you come to have your date with me. Okay? Okay, so this is the meaning of this is way deeper than just tent of meeting. You know? This is a building of meeting because all the people come here to meet. Okay? The idea behind Ohel Moed, there's an intimacy implied in the name. This is the place where we come to be intimate with God. Okay? Now, so you remember in the previous parshiot, they were actually putting all of this together. And getting it ready for what is what we're reading about in this parsha. And I want us to go back because I want to ask a question and then answer it. We'll actually ask some questions. First, before we go back and take a look at some other passages leading up to this, I would ask the question of you, and I don't know whether you've ever even considered this, what did they do for 7 days? What, you know, did they just sit there on their hands for 7 days? Did they just twiddle their thumbs for 7 days? Okay? The text itself doesn't tell us. Okay? It doesn't tell us what they did. However, the writings of the sages do tell us what they believe that they did. Okay? This was a time, it was a time, number one. So let's talk about why they would need to do this. By being in the holy place, what are they close to?
Whoa. Power.
Yeah. I mean, they're right there next to the Shekinah of God. Okay? And if we have to be reminded sometimes in order to paint the appropriate pictures. If we go back, not very far, back to Shemot, Exodus, chapter 40. This is going to be page 108 in the Complete Jewish Bible. Chapter 40, verses 34 and 35. Shemot 40, 34 and 35, we read, "Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Adonai filled the Mishkan. Moshe was unable to enter the Ohel Moed because the cloud remained on it, and the glory of Adonai filled the Mishkan." Okay? So, this was the last thing that we read prior to the instructions that God begins to give to the priests in Vayikra. So is the Shekinah still there? Yes. Yeah, there's no indication at all that it had lifted. And in fact, if it had lifted, that would have meant it's time to pack everything up and go. Okay? So the Shekinah is still resident in the Holy of Holies. Okay? In the Kodesh Kodeshim. And so here they are ordered by the Lord to remain for 7 days in the holy place. Okay? What had they just witnessed not too much earlier with Moshe?
Face shining.
Yeah, his face shining. Why was his face shining? Because he had been in the presence of the Shekinah, the manifest presence of God. Okay? So, what happens when you're in right close to the Shekinah? What happens to you? Okay? What caused, let me ask this. What caused Moshe's face to shine? He was filled with the Spirit of God. Woo! And it was radiating out of him. Okay? So God tells them, I want you to come and camp, basically, for 7 days right next to me. Okay. Now, was it just the fact that they were there for 7 days that consecrated them? I don't think so. It was their proximity to the presence of God. Okay? I believe, and the sages believe, that what they ended up doing during those 7 days was they studied, because all of this stuff is brand new that's just been given to them as to what they're supposed to do and not do and all of that. I believe they studied, they learned, they memorized, and I think they probably went through dry runs and practiced what it was that they were going to be doing when it actually was time for them to step into the role. So they weren't just sitting there day and night twiddling their thumbs. Okay? And then I want us to, if we go to, let's see, so 108. In Vayikra, Leviticus 1, 1 and 2, it says, Adonai called to Moshe and spoke to him from the Ohel Moed. He said, speak to the people of Israel, say to them, when any of you brings an offering to Adonai, you may bring your animal offering either from the herd or from the flock. And I put that in there just to point out, yet again, to solidify that the Shekinah is in the tent of meeting still, because it says that Adonai called to Moshe from the tent of meeting. I'm bringing all of this up because I want to make some application, spiritual application to us. Okay? And I want to read to you now. I told you I wanted to save the commentary. Wanted to save the commentary for incorporating into my message. This is an excellent commentary. And I want to read read it to you. And we've actually talked about this before in this congregation. Have you ever heard the phrase, "on fire for the Lord"? The metaphor of fire has long been equated with passion. And in my mind, this is a Christian saying, not a Jewish one.
Fire.
I was surprised to find out that the phrase actually stems from this week's Parsha. The fire on the altar shall remain aflame on it. This is quoting from the scripture, from chapter Leviticus, Vayikra 6, 5 and 6. It shall not be extinguished, and the priest shall kindle wood upon it morning after morning. A constant fire shall burn upon the altar, it shall never go out. So, a constant fire shall burn upon the altar. The altar, in the writings of Jewish mysticism, is symbolic of the human heart, the space in each of us most capable of sacrifice. The heart, however, needs a continuous fire burning in it. For the human heart to live deeply, for it to feel empathy and experience the depth of life and love, it needs to be on fire, passionate, aflame. The modern Hebrew word for enthusiasm is hit lahavut, or being inflamed, or impassioned, or being on fire. Avraham Yehoshua Heschel says that hit lahavut is the experience of moments during which the soul is ablaze with an insatiate craving for God, when the memory of all other interests and the fear of misery and persecution are forgotten. In such instances, a man seeks to give himself to God and delights in his being a gift to God. That is from being aflame or having fire within in a passion for truth written by Avraham Heschel. There's a challenge here, if you're willing to take it. Life has a way of bogging us down with the mundane, with self-doubts, struggles, and whatever it can. It's easy to lose focus and forget to continue to, quote, kindle the fire, end quote. And I'll just stop here for a moment and say, this message is so very important to me. It confirms something that the Lord has been speaking to me in the midst of my pain. Because what ends up happening when you have severe pain and it's constant and it just keeps on going for week after week and month after month, pain enough that if not totally incapacitating, at least periodically, temporarily incapacitating, meaning you have to stop what you're doing and go get in a position to try to let the pain subside enough that you can get up and go again. Okay? So I know that several of you have encountered this kind of pain. And some of you may be still encountering this kind of pain. So those of you who have been in pain over a long period of time, you're going to understand exactly what I'm about to say. And those who have not ever had to endure continuous and constant pain, they're not going to understand this. Okay? This is an experiential thing. When you have that kind of pain, just by nature, there comes a despair and a depression that comes on you. Because, especially if you were somebody who is extremely active before, and now because of the pain you cannot do what you were doing before. And you know that there is a mountain of things that need to be done, but you just cannot do it. And all you can do is sit or lay or stand somewhere and be still and do nothing. And yet all of those things remain that need to be done. Okay? After a while, you begin thinking, is this ever going to change? Am I ever going to be able to get back to being and doing what I was before? And how in the world am I ever going to get these things that need to be done? How are they ever going to be done? And so there can end up, depression is really a horrible thing. Okay? Because it starts, in essence, when that comes on, it starts shutting everything down in your life. Even the things that you could do, because of the depression, you don't want to do. Okay? So, I have been struggling with this. We're now in week 6 of the pain, and they're telling me, according to doctor's report this last week, it is basically, if anything's going to happen, God's going to have to do it because they cannot and will not. So, you're in pain, tough luck. Okay? The reason for that is because they did muscle and nerve testing on me. And I don't have enough strength loss for them to do anything. You know, it's really, to me, and I don't want to get on a big soapbox here, but to me, it's a horrible thought process to think that the medical industry has made the determination you, in essence, have to become crippled before we'll do anything. Okay? Rather than trying to stop the process so that you don't become crippled in some way, we're going to let this progress until you become so bad that we have to do something. Okay? I think that's very wrong.
Hello.
And too much of modern medicine today is treating the symptoms instead of addressing the cause. And so, anyway, I'll get off that. I don't need to go there. So, the reason why I went to the doctor is because my chiropractor said, if you're not better by now with me treating you, then there's something else going on, and you need to get an MRI in order to know, for us to know what is actually going on. Okay? So the doctor tells me when I visit him, well, now you can go get an MRI, which is going to cost you $500 out of your pocket to get. But he said, once we have the MRI, you're out $500, but so what? They're going to look at the MRI and go, yep, you got a problem. And that's it. Okay? So, why spend the $500 on the MRI if all they're going to do is just look at it and go, yeah, you got a problem and tough luck. So in essence, he said, I'm sorry, but it's too early in the game and you're just going to have to suffer. So, yeah, it is really, the whole idea is unacceptable. But
Hello?
what ends up happening when you hear this and you're fighting depression over the fact that you can't do anymore what you used to do, there is a hopelessness that settles in on you, and it starts affecting everything. Everything in your life. It colors the way that you see your life and everything that you do. And I know all of this. I have lived for 32 years with someone who has a degree in psychology, and 30 years with another someone who has a degree in psychology, and his wife who has a degree in psychology. And so I know all of these things here. Okay? It's quite different to know it here and to then have to deal with it here. Okay? And so because of my level of pain, my passion was diminishing. And this last Wednesday during prayer time, the Lord really began speaking to me about, Michael, you cannot let this happen. And He has been speaking to me. I told the guys after they got done praying. He's been speaking to me passage from the Scripture which says, my grace is sufficient for you. And the context of that particular passage is Rav Shaul's got something going on too. And he's asked God 3 times to take it away from him. And God's answer is no. I'm not going to take it away from you. But my grace is sufficient for you because my strength is made perfect in your weakness. You know, the pain issue, that I have no choice. I have no control over that at all. But my attitude and my passion for the Lord, I do have control over. And so, the Lord has been speaking to me, Michael, you cannot allow the pain that you're in to cause you to lose your passion for me and for life and for the things that I've called you to do. Even if it means that you have to be in pain like this for the rest of your life. I have things for you to do. And you cannot stop just because you're in pain. Now I suppose if it got so bad that it literally crippled me where I could not function, that would be a different story. But that's not where I'm at right now. And you guys see I'm wearing this on my arm. This is what this is. It's a device that presses right here on the ulnar nerve, runs right along here. And it presses on that nerve and helps a little bit with the pain levels. Okay? Doesn't make them go away. It just reduces them some. Okay? So, I want to weave that into the rest of what is said here. Because the question is asked, so how do we maintain and continue to foster our own inner altar? There's only one way. Quote, "The priest shall kindle wood upon it morning after morning." End quote. Each and every day, we must place wood on our altar in order to feed its potential flame. Fire cannot exist in a vacuum. The fire in our heart and soul, too, requires wood to sustain it. It needs fuel. What is the wood or fuel that is capable of feeding the soul's flames each day? Study, meditation, charity, and prayer. These are daily encounters with the living God that allow the fire of the soul to hold on to something and to take root in the human psyche. A delicious piece of cheesecake, reading and answering your email, listening to the news don't do the trick of turning on your soul or your inner depth. They lack the properties to stoke the flames of the soul. This is why I've harped on this for so many years. In the morning, before you do anything else. You see, this was the very first thing that was done every morning, is that a priest got up and restoked the fire on the altar before anything else was done in the Mishkan, in the temple. Every morning, before you do anything else, you need to engage in labor that will let the flame of your soul emerge. What's the key to a good marriage? Or any relationship for that matter? Communication. It's vital to any healthy relationship. This same principle applies to our relationship with Hashem. We must make it a priority to meet with Him. According to the Baal Shem Tov, which, by the way, is one of the Jewish sages, I know if because I said Baal, you're probably going, that's a foreign god. No. The word Baal just simply means Lord. Okay? Baal Shem Tov means the Lord of the good name, which was one of the early rabbis, one of the sages. According to the Baal Shem Tov, one's relationship to God is like a romance. One must be fully and wholeheartedly invested. And as Heschel said, faith is fire, not sediment. This harkens to a congregation, a conversation that Nathaniel, a prayer, was that Wednesday night? Yeah. The sediment. Yeah, that's right. It was a prayer that Nathaniel prayed on Wednesday night for one of Jose's nieces. And the Lord showed him sediment piling on top of this particular young lady, and how God's Spirit, the passion for God, needs to be inside of her to be like the seed that would germinate and grow and push its way up through the sediment that is there. Okay? That no matter what piles in on top of her, that life of God would push through and out.
Could I interject you?
Yes.
For those who can make the prayer meeting on Wednesday, it is very uplifting, and it does flow the soul, and the Lord does answer prayer, and it gives you intimate time as a community before the Lord. So if you could make Wednesday night prayer meetings, I think it's very instrumental to your personal life and your personal
Yes.
relationship with the Lord.
I agree. Yeah, very, very helpful to your walk with the Lord to be a part of that. So Heschel said, faith is fire, not sediment, meaning it is action. Faith requires active investment. When given that investment, it becomes like fire, necessarily infectious. So with fire, fire spreads to other things that can be caught on fire. Okay? Goethe said, a man sees in the world what he carries in his heart. I'm going to say that again. A man sees in the world what he carries in his heart. If your heart is aflame, your world that day will be on fire. And you must place the wood on your altar each morning. No exceptions. Consistency is the key to a meaningful and inspiring day. There are no shortcuts to inspiration. Everything comes at a price. The only job where you start at the top, I loved this statement. I'm going to say it a couple times. The only job where you start at the top is digging a hole. The only job where you start at the top is digging a hole. But life is about climbing mountains, not digging holes. And to climb a mountain, you must begin at the bottom. We have the opportunity to make a difference for good, to bring good in the world. But our course is one of action. We must work at having hitlahavut, at being on fire. May these words from our Master be readily found near our hearts. Quote, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. These men, Aharon, Eleazar, and Itamar, spent 7 days in the presence of the Lord to make ready to be able to do what it was that God was asking them to do. They were going to be the ones who every morning would stoke the fire with the wood on the altar. There's a song that we sing. We can't go out till you fill us. Empty, what would we do? God of heaven. What's that? We confess our need of you. We must not let the passion for God and the passion for what God has for us to do, our destiny that needs to be fulfilled in the earth for His purposes, we must not let that go out, no matter what is going on in our lives, no matter how much pain that we're in. Do not let depression and hopelessness defeat you and overcome you and sideline you and cause you not to be able to do what it is that God has called you to do. It's too important to you. It's too important to Him. Remain at the entrance to the Ohel Moed, the place of intimacy. Let's pray. Abba, thank you that you offer such intimacy to us. When Yeshua died and the parochet, the veil that separated the Holy of Holies, was torn in two from the top to the bottom, it was a clear sign from you that intimacy with the Shekhinah, the manifest presence of God, was open to those who would believe in Yeshua the Messiah. Father, you have made this possible for us. Why would we ever take it for granted? Why would we ever, in essence, say, so what? Father, you are inviting us to come in and be intimate with you. Is there anything else in the earth that is any greater or better than that? Father, everything else pales in comparison. So, Father, may we take advantage of what you have offered to us. May we come to that meeting place, that dwelling place where you are every morning and have a date with you. You're there waiting for us. I pray in Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Yevarechek Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yichunecha. B'shem Yeshua Mishikenu, Adonenu, Tzidkenu, Yeshuatenu, Sar Shalom. In the name of Yeshua, our Messiah, our Lord, our righteousness, our salvation, the Prince of Peace. Amen.